We're a month in, dude. 2024. We're about a quarter of the way through 2024.
That's crazy that we're already a month in.
Yeah. It did seem like it's flown by a bit.
All right, intro is rolling. 3-minute countdown. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of energy building in the ether at this time, and I think it's gonna keep building. All right, so I got that part. So yeah, you're saying about 3 minutes. So should we? Yeah, pretty much starting pretty soon here.
That's the intro I'm running right now on my channel. We are good to go. All right. One minute 20. So guys, thanks for being here again. Greatly appreciate it. As I said, it's about 14 slides. There's 2 videos in there. Actually 3 videos. Shout out to Lion for this is the Lion's ad via DM is honestly the cherry on top. Featuring the TR3B. If you know about the TR3B, anti-gravitational flotation device the Army uses, then you know. 3 puck lights in the sky, a triangular black device that floats up there.
I've seen that a couple times.
Yeah, bro. Able to cancel out the forces that act upon it somehow, some way, able to fly.
I don't like that they call it
jet fuel. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't like that they call it anti-gravity. Every time I see it online, it's electrovitic. It's a static device.
Right, and this is exactly what the video is all about. So we have 10 seconds in.
Right.
Guys,
They stole.
Thank you so very much for being here. Sorry, Quat, cut you off, dude. Let me just flip my screens over. All right, so we're on YouTube, and I gotta share my screen with y'all. Give me a quick second. View slideshow, and then hit y'all up with the screen share, which is over here in the go lives, so y'all should be able to see what I see, which is the ether. A butterfly flaps its wings. Please give me a confirmation. Greatly appreciated. Folks who are on YouTube, welcome to another episode of Killian. Book of Killian. I'm here. I'm your host. Hi, good to see you. We're sharing some information, me throwing some ideas forward with our friends over at Earth Awakenings. So shout out to the crew over at Earth Awakenings. We appreciate you always. The community, the engagement, always chats up. If anybody wants to post a link in my comments, please feel free. Yeah. Any questions within the confines of the presentation, please feel free to jump forward and ask away, or maybe post them in the chat. But today's presentation is Ether. Subtitle is A Butterfly Flaps Its Wings. Again, I'm your host, Killian. So again, we're engaging with the community of Discord, Earth Awakening. Shout out to the crew. Just gonna ask you guys for some examples. Survey says Does anybody have some working examples, just like 1 or 2 word answers of the ether? Please go ahead.
Supercell and magnetic ferrocell.
Okay, Supercell Magnetic Ferrocell by Dyslow. All right, shout out to that. Go ahead.
What you looking for?
Examples of the ether at work.
Sonoluminescence.
Sonoluminescence. Okay, any simple ideas of what the ether potentially
One simple.
does for
Light,
us?
Black matter matters.
electricity, and magnetism.
Okay, we got 2
Yes,
answers.
light.
We had a couple answers there. We had, did someone say dark matter?
No.
Okay. Sorry, Dyson, go ahead.
Dark matter is a euphemism to hand wave dismiss any notions of the ether. But
Right.
yeah, the three
Yeah.
three best examples
Yes.
of the ether would be electricity, magnetism, and light, being all 3 different modalities of expression of the ether. Anyone else?
Yeah, or the double slit experiment.
Okay. How about, and I'm gonna
Classically,
oh, sorry.
classically, it's
Sorry.
known as. Oh, sorry. Classically, it's known as known of as an element. It's like the base element by which earth, air, and fire and water are all stem from. So it's in terms of that concept of it as well as an element.
Okay.
Quantum entanglement.
Quantum entanglement from Lion. Okay.
How about the downward electrostatic gradient producing the direction of down?
All right. Yeah, that's actually a really good one. We could say that is literally like the ether working, right? That's the ether doing work to whatever
How about
it's engaging in. Go ahead.
Yeah, and along with that, the sky and the movement of the sky.
Good one.
I'm not saying that is only that is ether, but that it perhaps would be then connected to the vortex nature of the entire system.
What about the Northern Lights? Would that be an example of like the ether being illuminated?
I believe so,
Yeah.
personally. In my opinion, I think the Aurora Borealis is definitive evidence of the ether at work.
All right, my guy.
I think all our entire physical, like everything we observe physically, all the atoms vibrating, everything is vibrating inside the ether, and it's just one modality of the ether's expression that we see. So everything literally that we see, all the fractal geometry is all a reflection of the ether's patterns in like a smaller dimensional version of the ether that we could see in a physical state, like a solid state.
But like Quap, the whole thing here, right, is like we're trying to dumb things down for the layman, right? We're not trying to bring in any really hard examples. Not hard examples. Sorry, that would be. We're looking for simple things that the layman can understand the ether working. You know what I'm saying?
I'll give you
Well,
one.
I'm not throwing away what you said, right? Just to clarify my response. All I'm
My
saying is,
my stuff is too complicated.
right, Jeremy. I didn't say anything more complicated.
I got one. A black hole. A black hole would be a supermass with no magnitude, which is precisely the dielectric plane of inertia, separate from that of the magnetic field. Anyhow, go ahead.
Okay.
You said make it simpler, bro.
Yeah.
All
What,
right,
if, what if I said to you
Black
guys the air that we breathe?
Sure, I think everything is the ether.
Oh, sorry. Just double checking. Air that we breathe.
No, that is accurate.
Right? The water that we
Yeah.
drink. Sick.
All matter and light have been reconciled through the ether. So yeah, light and matter are just different expressions of the ether.
Awesome.
Also known as hard light is what the matter's been referred to before by several other people, high-profile people.
All right. So, getting into the next slide, Wikipedia defines the ether as a classical element. According to ancient and medieval science, ether alternate spellings, blah, 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 also known as the fifth element or quintessence, is the material that fills the region of the universe beyond the terrestrial sphere. The concept of ether was used in several theories to explain several natural phenomena, such as the propagation of light and gravity in the late 19th century. Physicists postulated that ether permeated space, providing a medium through which light could travel in a medium, but evidence for the presence of such a medium was not found in the Michelson-Morley experiment, and this result has been interpreted to mean that no luminiferous ether exists. So Michelson-Morley proposed that light traveled, just to tell you what his experiment was and what it all meant. Let me just turn off my camera so my big head does not block our friends on YouTube so they can see what I see. Now, Encyclopedia Britannica defines the ether, note the spelling, E-T-H-E-R, as a theoretical substance. Ether in physics, a theoretical universal substance believed during the 19th century to act as the medium for transmission of electromagnetic waves, i.e. light and X-rays, such as sound waves are transmitted by elastic media such as air. The ether was also assumed to be weightless, transparent, frictionless, undetectable chemically or physically, and literally permeating all matter and space. The theory met with increasing difficulties as the nature of light and the structure of matter became better understood. It was seriously weakened in 1887 by the Michelson-Morley experiment. You guys noted my response to that, which was designed specifically to detect the motion of Earth through the ether. Note, again, motion of Earth. That was the assumed. They wanted to detect the motion of Earth, so they were looking for the Earth to be moving. Ether, and which showed that there was no such effect. Ether theories were also used to explain gravity, beginning in the 17th century, but they did not have the popularity of those explaining the propagation of light. With the formations of the special theory of relativity by Albert Einstein in 1905, and its acceptance by scientists generally, the ether hypothesis was abandoned as being unnecessary in terms of Einstein's assumptions that the speed of light or any electromagnetic wave is a universal constant. So the model that's posted on the left side is the medieval concept of the cosmos. The innermost spheres are the terrestrial spheres, while the outer are made of ether and contain the celestial bodies. So basically you've got the outer rings. You can note the the houses that are noted, and the sun basically rising and moving around in these different houses. But this is again a medieval concept of the ether itself. So my claim is the ether is the medium within and without the firmament. Who here remembers in high school working with a petri dish? Anybody?
Yeah.
All right. So petri dish, fill it up, let's say halfway with water. We close the lid. We have a closed system. Half of it is filled with water. The other half of it is filled with air. I propose that the air and the water are literally the ether. The outer shell being the firmament, which would be the plastic of the petri dish. Go to the dictionary. Oxford Languages, yes, the Oxford defines a medium. Note number 2, the intervening substance through which impressions are conveyed to the senses, or a force acts on objects at a distance. Example, radio communication needs no physical medium between the two stations. So my question then becomes, what if I had two people on a football field? One guy stands on the other side and he yells to the other guy 50 yards away, 60 yards away. How does that sound propagate? How does it move? My idea is that we're in a closed system. We note that at sea level, it's a 14.7 pounds per square inch observed pressure, which is basically 1 bar. So depending on where you are, your elevation will dictate what the pressure is. But regardless, that's still a closed system. And that you creating that sound carries forth on the ether itself, the medium, that gas. That thing that you're breathing is the same thing that your voice is traveling on. A simple example concerns the model on which ether was originally built, sound. The speed of propagation for mechanical waves, the speed of sound, is defined by the mechanical properties of the medium. Again, what if I yell? Echo, echo, echo. So the thing itself, 14.7 psi observed pressure at sea level. We inhale it, we exhale it. Different forms, but we still inhale it, and we exhale it. We can move our hands around, we can feel it. We know it's there. We even drink it. We look to blood. Blood, 51% water. Any questions, comments, concerns so far?
Nope.
Dope.
No.
The human auric field. Apparently, it propagates in the shape of a toroid. We know that it sets a mood. Go to a funeral, observe a somber environment. Go to a baseball game, if the baseball game is exciting. Observe an exciting moment or exciting times. Just being there in the environment, everybody's having fun, having beers, snacks, hot dogs, whatever. Fun times are ahead. That auric field apparently propagates outside of you by approximately 3 to 4 feet on either side. Total 7 to 8 feet. Also, feelings and words are emitted and received on it. Think of, you look at somebody a certain way, they look back at you and they feel what you're trying to put forward, the way you're looking at them. Or you're just not feeling hot. Got up on the wrong side of the bed, walk into a room, somebody looks at you and is like, oh damn, you're carrying that kind of energy, right? That's your human auric field at work. Further examples of the ether at work. We got clouds. We all know clouds. White fluffy ones, gray dark heavy ones. We know the water droplet comes from those dark heavy ones. And then the body of water itself, where the water droplets collect, is all ether. It's all the same thing, just different forms of it. One is a condensed state, water, condensed. The other is a non-condensed state, the air that we breathe. Clouds are a vaporized state. Yes, vaporized state, but they have not condensed yet because they haven't started to rain. When it starts to rain, they condense. We then look to a fire. How do you extinguish a fire? You take its breath away. Quickest way, maybe you guys have, if you've been on YouTube, seen the commercials for a fire blanket, right? No longer spraying the fire itself with a fire extinguisher, depending on the size of the fire, obviously. But people are now looking to fire blankets to just throw it onto the fire to literally extinguish the fire. How do you help start a fire with a spark? You blow on it. If you guys have been out camping or any place you need to start a fire, you rub some wood onto another piece of wood, you create that friction, you see that smoke. So you start to see evidence of the ether at work. And as you get that spark, you start to breathe on it, supply it with more oxygen or whatever you're breathing out. That helps to feed the flames and get it to breathe, so that the fire comes to life and you get a healthy fire. In both cases, the medium itself is being altered, affecting the fire. Light propagation.
Another
3-minute
property
video.
about light that we ought to consider is we're well aware that because they...
Please confirm that you guys are getting video coming through Earth Awakenings. I'm gonna play. Cool. Thank you for that.
Propagate out like waves. We can imagine these waves seen from, well, let's just call it overhead for lack of a better term. It's almost as if you took a rock and dropped it into a pond of calm water. The waves from the rock will ripple out, and light waves ripple out in much the same way. But this means that as the light wave gets farther and farther from its source, it therefore becomes weaker and weaker. Try to imagine positioning your eye on the left side of the diagram. Well, if your eye had moved close to the source, you're going to get a significant fraction of that light wave entering your eye. And so therefore, the source is going to be relatively bright. But if you position your eye toward the very edge of the screen, toward the left-hand side of your screen, you're going to be catching a really small portion, a rather tiny fraction of that wave, and therefore the light is going to appear dim. And this is why, whenever we consider street lamps, we know in this example that all of these street lamps have the same intrinsic brightness. In other words, they're all the same wattage, they all emit the same amount of light every second, but because we are farther away from the most distant lights, their light waves have expanded quite a bit since they left their home lights some time ago, and by the time they reach our eyes, they therefore appear to be much fainter, much weaker. So this means that light obeys an inverse square law. So as light is radiating away from a source, its energy is going to spread out over an ever greater area. So in our diagram here, we have 3 distances. We have the first distance r, the second distance at twice the value of r, and our third distance at 3 times the value of r. Now if you take a look at the area, that capital letter A at 1 distance unit away, or 1 r unit away, we can count 9 photons passing through this initial square area. However, by the time we've doubled the distance, we now need 4 times as much area to capture the 9 spreading apart photons. And by the time we get to 3 times its distance, we now have to invoke 9 square areas to capture those spreading photons. So this is the inverse square law in action. As the distance increases, the amount of energy that you receive at any given unit area, any given single one of those squares, is reduced by a factor of 1 over the distance squared.
So, posted up 3 animals on the left-hand side, 2 dogs and a hippo. Just looking at their mouths, right? We can see their tongues, and their tongues show that there's light present. And then we know if they close their mouths, the light disappears. So I ask you guys, what's the difference between their mouths being open versus their mouths being closed for light being able to propagate within their mouths? What's been removed? Anybody?
Can you repeat the example of? I missed the first half of the example.
So we'll just go. So we're outside, right? Or these animals that are shown on the stream, right? Their mouths are open, and then they close their mouths, and we know that when they close their mouths, light disappears. So what have we changed between the 2 situations to make their mouths go dark?
Well, Would that be attenuation?
Right, but what's the one thing that we've removed? So that we know that the medium is still present because they're breathing. Right, but with their mouths open, they're exposed
The
to the
space
sun.
that we can see.
Well, they're exposed to the sun, right? If their tongues open or their mouths open, then we know their tongues exposed to the sun. When they close their mouths are no longer exposed to the sun, right? So the thing that we've removed that we know for a fact is the sun itself. And that's the idea of light being able to propagate one way versus the other. Does that make sense? Guys, anybody? Thoughts? No? Too fast?
Well, I would say the sun can't get in,
Right.
to that area.
Exactly.
It can't get out.
Exactly.
I don't want to be a contrarianist, but when you close your eyes, it's kind of similar, right, to the dog closing his mouth. But we can still see some light, not as much light, not as intense, but there's definitely still some
I fully
noticeable
agree with
light,
you.
right?
Now, if we then put a book in front of your head, what happens?
Oh, lights out.
Exactly. And that's all I'm saying is just like the observation of like, we know that the medium is still there because we're breathing it, we're interacting with it. We can even say we're on a beach chair hanging out on the Florida coast, right? Hanging out with Tora. What's up, Tora? If he's here. But then when we want to get out of the sun, as an example, we put up a shade or whatever it is, but we need to remove the sun from the equation because our exposure is too much at that point, and that's just the exposure to the light itself. So from my standpoint, I'm like, the ether, the medium that we're breathing is always present because we're engaging with it, but the thing that we've removed is the thing providing the spark, the sun itself. Because the gases are no longer able to do the thing that they do when the sun is exposed to the gases. Does that make sense? Damn. Okay. I'm going to carry on. Going to first book of John, chapter 5. The certainty of God's witness. Certainty of God's witness. Verse 6. This is he who came by water and blood, Jesus Christ, not only by water, but by water and blood. And it is the Spirit who bears witness, because the Spirit is truth. For there are three that bear witness in heaven, the Father, the Word, and the Holy Spirit. And these three are one. And there are three that bear witness on earth, the Spirit, the water, and the blood. And these three agree as one. Blood itself is 51% water. On average, blood is 50% water, 51% water. We can calculate this based on the percentage of blood made up of plasma and of the water content of the plasma. Normally, blood is 55% plasma and 45% blood cells, and other material, plasma, is 92% water. These are just some examples of the ether itself at work. The three pictures of the circular color pattern show the jet stream at work. Then we look to how birds fly. Going back to, this was like grade 8, we learned that birds, kind of made a cutting motion upward, and then they would make a downward stroke, propelling themselves on some kind of a surface. Like there has to be something there that they're engaging with to give themselves the lift, the flight. We witness them gliding, these things, right? We know that they're riding on something. Something is present there, just like a fish swims on in the water, right? Birds do the same thing. That's the ether working. We look to blimps. These were just helium-filled balloons, large masses that would use a propeller and navigate the jet stream to get where they're going. And then think about airplanes and them just having potentially 4 turbines strapped to a perfectly designed fuselage with wings that allows it to propel itself through the ether, i.e. the jet stream. Another working example of the ether. Thoughts?
I think bees would be the best example of this. Honestly, I'm obsessed with bees, and bees, they can use the electrostatics to make pollen levitate into their sacs, and they also, like, when bumblebees like jet off, they like can sense the streams of the electric currents.
Another perfect example of that. Because a bee, it doesn't fly. It defies the downward force. Here's the frequency spectrum. Oh, sorry. Someone went get in? No? Okay.
I would say that, yeah, there's no doubt that there's certain insects that can take advantage of the ether and have demonstrated electrostatic propulsion for sure, bro. Like, this is already, like, established. It's not, like, on the fringe anymore, bro. And bumblebees, like, yeah, I agree, man. Prime example of that.
Bumblebees are definitely the kings of the ether. I think, like, they're tiny, but they're the masters. Like,
well, this next share comes to us from our friends at Vibes of Cosmos. We got a 4-minute video on tap, and it's pretty good in my opinion. Hope you like it. Note the spectrum from left to right. Shout out to Super Mario. Frequency storage finds application in storage, internet data technology, as through high frequency waves and similar. I haven't even really scanned that to see if it makes sense. I shouldn't even be reading this publicly. Somebody might clip me. Yeah, until we haven't gotten onto this part of the.
Yo, just pause this. We can't hear you.
All right. Yeah, I haven't caught on to this this aspect of things just yet.
Yeah, I would just turn off the music, brother.
Yeah, well stated. But yeah, I'll let this run out for the last minute left. Thanks, guys. All right, next up, as we were, hold on, let me turn my big head off. Big head. Hey, all right, so we got the sun, we got the moon. Note they're all moving in the sky. We have Polaris, the top left and right hand corners. Note the exposure time. So taking pictures of the sky over time lapse kind of proves that the ground is still and the sky is in fact moving. We'll note that like the spirograph type of image that this portrays over a time lapse. But what's interesting about this is note Polaris's location, right? It's the center point on the left. And then we go to the picture on the right, the brightest star at in the very middle actually starts to have more of an arc to it. So I would assume that the time lapse, the difference between the two images would be the time lapse that the exposure was left up for. And then, as we were discussing at the beginning of the presentation, the Northern Lights, an example of like the illuminated essence of the ether showing itself. Any thoughts so far?
Nope.
Cool. Am I crazy? What are you guys like? Any feedback so far?
No, man. Just waiting for you to go through your presentation, brother.
All right.
I can absorb it.
So, my excuse me, my concluding statement before I carry on to the last video I have is the ether, the conveyor belt to the closed. Oh, sorry, the conveyor belt of the closed realm. And bear with me, I just got to queue up this. Please let me know if this video is coming through. I had to flip over to another window for it. Can you confirm that you guys see what I see? Dude with a toque?
Yep.
Cool.
Today was a crazy day. I saw this International Space Station crossing the moon, and I thought to myself, how come it's only about a quarter of the size of a plane crossing the moon? Seems like it'd be much smaller than that, especially when we look at the size comparison and see that both an airplane and the International Space Station are about the same size as a football field. And then you look at a football field from an airplane window and you realize that it looks pretty small from there. So then I wonder, is this really 250 miles away? Then I thought to myself, well, it can't be fake because I can go on YouTube and watch the live stream of the ISS coursing across the face of the Earth. And someone obviously took this picture, and I know you can track it, and there's people who see it all the time, but the live feed footage doesn't look much higher than a weather balloon. And we all know most satellites are launched by balloon. So then I came across this thing, which is a US patented triangular spacecraft that uses what is called unconventional spacecraft propulsion systems, which is a spacecraft having a triangular hull with vertical electrostatic line charges on each corner that produce a horizontal electric field parallel to the sides of the hull. This field interacting with a plane wave emitted by the antennas on the sides of the hull generates force per volume combining both lift and propulsion. Then I find out that these electrostatic propulsion systems are used in satellites. Then I start to look into electrostatic levitation. What? Then I find out about the electrostatics in our atmosphere, that it has an equipotential increase of 100 volts per meter, which could possibly be the reason for the downward bias of things trying to seek equilibrium on the ground. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I figure out that liquid oxygen is actually magnetic. And I'm like, wait a minute. Hold on. If liquid oxygen is magnetic and frozen oxygen is this beautiful sky blue, then does liquid oxygen somehow interact with this electrostatic orbital electromagnetic field? I don't know. Wait, what? Then I found this thing, a toroidal field made out of copper and stones. All of a sudden, he hangs this golden necklace over it, and it starts orbiting. Oh, have you seen the path of the ISS over the flat Earth? Yeah, that's the path it takes. The International Space Station path over the flat Earth. It's a toroidal field. I don't know. This is why they don't want us to do our own research, because simply just asking a question about this sent me on this whole rabbit trail, finding a lot of other things that may be... Whoa, Viper! I almost got done with the video, but then guess what you did? You screamed at me! What do you want? What? Hold on. What'd you just say to me? Anyway.
What?
Hey, could this thing possibly be orbiting a different way? Could the firmament be scientifically explained? Today was a crazy day. Dude. I saw this International Space Station crossing the moon, and I thought...
Guys, I'm just going to close up the stream. Excuse me. Over on YouTube. Guys, thanks for being here, listening on YouTube. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you so much for the space on Earth Awakenings to sit down and throw these ideas around. I'm going to be signing off on, as I said, YouTube. Thanks again for being here. Appreciate you as always, friends. And we'll open up the floor for discussion. If anybody wants to join the Earth Awakening stream, somebody hit us up with a link. Greatly appreciate it. Be well, friends. Thanks for being here. Peace.